under the grate was a pool of acid,
Yes,
essentially.
sir.
And how far up did the acid go on this
I
guy?
think it went to his belly button, or maybe just over his belly button.
And was this acid that you see on like a Batman movie where it like burns your skin and stuff? Welcome to another great episode of Cases Gone Wild, and boy, do we have the show for you today. Buckle up, hold on, because this show is going to be a wild ride. I'm Jon Marko. I'm your host. As you know, I've been doing this for almost 2 decades, and I will bring you, I promise, the craziest, most wildest cases, and today's episode is no different. If you like the show, make sure that you subscribe, share it to your friends, your grandma, your neighbor, whoever. Please, don't forget, we are filming live. We dressed up for you here today. So please watch us live, the video on YouTube, if you like the show and want to see us and the beautiful face of our special guest today. A great trial lawyer, a great friend, a great everything, my friend, Alan Latham. Thank you for coming on the show, my man.
Thank you, John. Happy to be here.
Alan, you are born in Pontiac,
Yaktown's finest, yes, sir.
1982, 1 year before me. Graduated from Eastern Michigan, right, for undergrad?
The Eagles at that point in time.
The
yes, sir.
Eagles. Then you went to law school at U of D Mercy. After that, you worked for Venn Johnson, who I also worked for when he was partners with Jeffrey Feiger, a little bit before he went out on his own. Which is I'm sure was a great way to get your feet wet in plaintiff side litigation, doing complex stuff, doing crazy cases gone wild. Right?
Amazing experience with Johnson Law. Shout out to the fighters. Shout out to Venn. Absolutely a phenomenal trial attorney. Couldn't ask for a better mentor to learn under.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I agree, because he was to me as well when I was at Jeff's. And now you run Latham Law Group. I've been involved in some of the cases that you have, for better or worse. And I know that you're a great lawyer. And you know, you're the treasurer right now of our Trial Lawyers Association, which is called the Michigan Association of Justice, formerly known as the Michigan Trial Lawyers. But, you know, you're working your way up and helping and giving back. I always love seeing you. I always love chatting with you and collaborating with you, Alex.
Feelings mutual, John. Thank you for having me on. Absolute honor to be the treasurer of MHA. Great folks, great lawyers to work with. And, you know, I think that one of the things that we all have in common with that organization is we stand up to bullies. We represent the people that are underrepresented and that can't fight for themselves, and we fight for them in court. And it's a great bunch of like-minded attorneys that, you know, really take it to home for their clients every day.
Well said. Well said. And so you focus now at Latham Law Group. I know you do auto, you do general negligence, so the general torts, and then you also do what a lot of lawyers do not do, and maybe there's a reason that they don't, but you do some consumer law, which is like lemon law stuff, which is really tough cases.
Yeah.
Really tough cases.
Very, very litigious cases, very scrappy cases, way more scrappy than the auto cases. Even in more than the general negligence cases, it's both fact intense and intense with the law.
Yeah, and you have like Ford Motor Company on the other side.
Yeah.
Chrysler Corporation, you know, and they hire very litigious lawyers.
I mean, aggressive. It's just an aggressive practice. And you're talking about, you know, people's vehicles, you know, a lot of times, and you got to be with the law, with understanding what happened with the client, what happened with the facts of the situation, the dates, all that stuff. And the law is very, very complex. Shout out to Danny LeBlanc at LeBlanc Law PLC. She's the queen of lemon law. You see her in the Court of Appeals, Supreme Court, and she's honestly one of the best writers that I know.
Yeah, you know, and I served as an arbitrator, a plaintiff's arbitrator on a case that, you know, we maybe don't want to talk about it on Cases Gone Wild.
Yeah.
Because I know it didn't go the way that you had hoped.
Yeah.
But it really opened my eyes a lot to lemon law and the difficulties of lemon law. So just tell our listeners, what is lemon law and, what's going on with this field of practice?
So what you have with the lemon law is when you have a vehicle that's brand new and you're taking it for the same problems for the times that are within the statute within a certain time frame. And they have to basically give you a buyback or a new vehicle.
So if you buy a new vehicle,
yes,
and it's what's called a lemon, right?
Yes.
Which means it keeps breaking all the time, essentially.
Like engine problems, electrical problems, having that same problem go in and not be fixed.
Yeah.
I mean, it shakes the consumer's faith. It destroys your use of the vehicle. It happens in major manufacturing when you're talking about mass manufacturing of vehicles. And Danny was one of the pioneers in creating these laws that protect the consumer. So
what's the remedy? They have to buy. So like, let's say I go to, I don't want to pick on Ford. Let's pick on like a foreign company.
Sure.
This is we're Detroit based here,
yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
Let's, Fiat. Okay. Even though they're affiliated with Chrysler, but
yeah.
whatever. All right, so I buy a Fiat, or let's say a Chinese car or something, and it keeps breaking. And so what are the remedies here?
Yeah, those don't really break that much.
Yeah,
but the remedies are they have so many times to fix it before you qualify for a buyback. You have to send a last chance letter, and once the vehicle's not remedied, you get to file a lawsuit.
So let me ask you from like a business owner, lawyer standpoint, how do you make money on these lemon law cases? Because I got to tell you, I sat as an arbitrator on a case involving a Ford Raptor.
Yes, sir.
That you had brought. The case went on for how many years, Alan, before it was arbitrated?
I don't have the file in front of me, but I think it's close to 5.
5 years over a car.
Yeah.
How do you get paid as the lawyer? Because I feel like these are brought in circuit court, and I know in that case, a great judge on the case, but Judge Allen, one of the best judges out there. But
yes, sir.
The kind of feeling is, at least that we saw in the case, was, what are we doing over a car? You don't have a blown off hand or the ruined life of a human being. And I'm not minimizing lemon law or cars, but what do you do? How do you make money? How are these cases
a lot of the times,
viable?
unfortunately, the client has to pay a retainer. The client is paying some of the costs associated with obtaining the vehicle's records, etc. But in many cases, the attorney fees are statutory. Tried a case in Macomb County, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 2017, where the attorney fees were statutory, and that one went uncollected because the dealer filed for bankruptcy.
No way.
Yeah.
And so you actually have to. Do you get a jury with these lemon law cases,
yeah.
or is it judge?
Oh yeah, it's jury. You can pick a bench trial,
like anything else.
Like anything else, but I've been a part of 3 lemon law breach of warranty cases with trials, and I've tried 2 as first chair.
And so you go and you have to try the case before a jury, and then if you win the case, do you get a turn? Why are you laughing?
Because the one case that I'm thinking of in my mind, we go to trial, and it you say a hand blown off. I think what really captured the jury's attention in this case that I'm thinking of is that it wasn't about my client's purchase of the vehicle. It was about my client's experience in that vehicle. She bought the vehicle because she'd been diagnosed with cervical cancer and rheumatoid arthritis in the same year. And she had to travel from, I think it was Traverse City to Grand Rapids for her medical visits. And they bought a brand new vehicle, and the vehicle had problems pulling to the left. And as you can imagine, an individual that has problems in their hands, it was a Hyundai Sonata, problems with their hands and that strength problem, fighting a vehicle on the way to your appointments to and from wasn't very pleasant. She was a great witness. Her husband was a great witness. We tried the case and got a verdict, went all the way to the Supreme Court.
come on. They
Yeah,
never
Court of
wanna
Appeals.
pay.
Court of Appeals overturned my verdict. Went to the Supreme Court. They reinstated it. Sent it back down to the trial court level. They still didn't want to pay. Our attorney fees in that case were over $300,000 at that
No
point.
way, over the car.
Over the car.
Why
over
don't-
a $16,000 car, John?
Why don't they just replace the $16,000 car? Why do they fight these?
We gave them the opportunity to, and they came up with a zero offer. It was a zero offer case. He couldn't even come up with $5,400.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
So if you win the lemon law case, is the attorney entitled to fees?
Statutory attorney fees, yes, sir.
So that means that the trial judge, or is it the jury? The trial judge.
Trial judge, we have a fee hearing after the verdict.
Okay, that's like my civil rights cases. I do an employment discrimination case, and you get fees. And the idea behind that, at least in civil rights, is a lot of these civil rights would go unaddressed. These violations would go unaddressed because attorneys wouldn't take them. So, for example, a black guy isn't being served at the lunch table. Attorneys might not take that case unless you're a public interest group,
right?
Because where is the money in that case? And I know that sounds callous to many people, but the bottom line is a lot of law firms are businesses, and unless you're public interest, you can't afford. You would go bankrupt as a law firm. So the idea was we're going to incentivize and encourage lawyers to take meritorious cases. Is it the same thing in this lemon law?
Yeah, it's primarily it's motivated to get attorneys to fight for consumers, and a lot of the attorney fees are statutory in many of the cases. But as you know, some cases settle, and you got to work it out.
It's hard though, man. I mean, isn't it hard doing a case over a $16,000 car that takes over $300,000 of attorney time and years and appeals and crazy?
Yeah, it's that work balance that you like so much.
The work balance.
That's balance.
Right,
I mean,
man.
it's just and Danny did a lot of the Danny LeBlanc did a lot of the writing for the Court of Appeals and for the Supreme Court, and arguing in front of the Supreme Court on the issue. And I can tell you what that issue was that went up if you'd like.
Sure, yeah.
So essentially what ended up happening is that we originally filed the case in circuit court, and it got remanded back down to district, and didn't file a new complaint under $25K. And so that issue went up.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it even though before we entered the jury verdict with the final order, the judge granted our motion to amend our complaint, which the complaint was amended prior to the file being closed, and they still took it up.
That's ridiculous. So they look for any technicality to avoid.
Final, paying and finality in it.
That's horrible. Well, good work.
Yeah.
And there's a time for every season, So we need consumer lawyers. I think it's an underserved part of the law because I get so many calls about consumer cases, and I just can't. We can't help all the people.
I mean, even in some of those that we look at, it's very difficult to bring a case.
Yeah,
there's arbitration clauses, as you know, that prevent actions from being brought to circuit court in front of a jury trial, and it's just very challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so tell me about some of the crazy cases. I understand you have a case involving some dude falling in a vat of acid.
Yeah.
Like a Batman movie. With the Joker
this gentleman, him and his son worked at a plant, and the plant made auto parts. And as a part of the auto part process, they put these pieces that they make that they fabricate through a washer. And so this is one of the earliest cases that I worked on. And there's these grates that are in the machine that you put it through. So think of like a hallway that this just washes these parts. And so
he
went
washing them with water?
It's washing them with acid.
Okay.
And so essentially, there's the parts that fall off the hooks. And so he went in to get one of the hooks or one of the parts that fell off a hook.
So the parts like hang on almost like a big fish hook type thing?
Almost like a big fish hook, almost like what you see in like a slaughterhouse or something like that.
And then it's going through a conveyor.
Going through a conveyor, yes,
and
sir.
it's spraying it with acid.
Yep, spraying it with cleaner or whatever they clean it with.
And sometimes when it sprays it, the part pops off the hook, essentially.
Parts pop off the hook, and all the overspray falls down into like a basin below it.
Oh, wow.
And there's just kind of like picture some grates. And these grates were made of like fiberglass or some type of plastic, not like steel or anything like that, like you would expect. And when he went to go into the machine, they turned the machine off, and it was a common thing. But essentially, the grate flipped over end over end, and he fell in from his waist down.
No way. So under the grate was a pool of acid,
yes,
essentially? Sir. And how far up did the acid go on this
I
guy?
think it went to his belly button, or maybe just over his belly button.
And was this acid that you see on like a Batman movie where it like burns your skin and stuff?
It's not as severe, like not melting your skin, but it definitely damaged his skin to the point where he had to wear special pants, several treatments, surgeries.
Surgeries?
Yeah.
So it went over his pee-pee.
It definitely went over his parts. Yes, sir.
Oh my God.
Yep.
So what happened with this case?
I believe that the case eventually resolved.
So did he work for the company?
He did work for the company. But I think that there's some type of, I don't have the file in front of me, obviously, but it worked out to where we were able to sue the manufacturer of the machine.
Oh, okay. For like inadequate safety,
like
shut off or something.
It wasn't a work comp case. It was a general negligence case against the manufacturer.
Man, that is a tough way to go, man.
Yeah.
Getting the
acid great
burn.
Family, great wife. I believe I sat in the depositions for the wife, the son, and the father. Met with the expert, did the inspection. That was crazy.
What was it like?
I mean, when you go into these inspections, it's kind of like a one-day thing, and you got to put on, the gear that they give you. You got to put on goggles. You're being shown around, and then your experts tooling around, and our experts at that time like to make the other side uncomfortable. Really getting in there, doing their thing, taking measurements, taking photographs. They had to shut the machine down. I think they gave us like maybe a half hour of it being shut down because any more they would lose too much money. So it was definitely a great experience early in my career to do that.
Yeah, inspections are always crazy and kind of exciting, and you learn more about going to the scene of an incident than you would ever realize. And so just for our listeners who aren't in the litigation maybe or who do different things, and scene inspection is something that you can demand in a lawsuit to go to the scene, even if it's on private property, with your expert or with cameramen and actually inspect what happened. So like, we have an auto accident case at an intersection. You just drive to the intersection. You don't need a scene inspection.
Yes.
But when it's on private property, you can do a demand. I did a scene inspection on cases where you would never really think you need one. And I always found that they were helpful. I always do them on big cases. So yeah. I did one on a case against Walmart where a garage door came down on somebody's head.
Yes.
And I learned so much at this scene inspection. First of all, I learned that the way that Walmart was saying that the whole incident occurred was impossible.
Yeah.
Secondly, I learned that there was additional cameras and camera angles that had caught the incident that they had deleted the video from.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known that had I not went to the Walmart and seen the cameras, and I took pictures of the cameras, and then I showed the judge. Look,
I'm not trying to interview you, but that's not the first time that's happened to you, right?
No.
That's happened to you before, where they've deleted videos.
They delete videos, destroy evidence.
Yeah.
It's my the best thing I think for a case can be catching the defendants destroying evidence.
Yes.
Because it happens more than you think. We talk about it on a lot of these cases gone wild where you don't believe it. But yes, it's very helpful. And I also discovered that the garage door that was currently on the Walmart was not the garage door that was in place at the time of the incident, which means that they had taken the garage door off, destroyed it, and replaced it after the incident.
Spoliation of evidence.
Spoiled it. Yeah. So,
but did they give you what did you ask for as a sanction?
I asked the judge to tell the jury that they destroyed the evidence.
Adverse
inference.
Yep.
Presumption.
Yep.
Judge said yes. I asked him to tell the jury that to go buy a new garage door. And the judge said they had to go purchase the original garage door, put it on a flatbed truck, and deliver it to the courthouse for trial. So that's
amazing.
Nice. Yeah. And I think we got some other sanctions or whatever. But,
okay.
That's pretty good, and then I argue it in the trial, they destroyed the evidence. So, but
juries
I agree.
don't like hearing that.
No, they don't. Scene inspections are important. I encourage any lawyer on a big case to go do a scene inspection. I think it's essential before trial.
Yep. Take your expert, take your photographer, show up official.
Bring a drone. I've had cases you bring drones, you can get aerial views. It's amazing. You can do all kinds of stuff depending on the case. All right, tell me about, you had a mechanic shop case, which I want to talk about because I just got done on a huge trial against a mechanic shop. So tell me about your case.
So my guy's a motorcycle rider. He has a Harley. A guy that likes to sport around. And he was refurbishing the bike and had some parts painted at a body shop.
So tell me about painting the brake,
they're painting the fender, the body, the makeups of the bike,
to make it look cooler,
to make it look nicer, more official, more cleaner. Guys and their toys, they like to look nice in them, right?
I get it.
So and I think that they knew each other because he'd done prior work for him, and he invites my client to the shop to take a look at the parts that he had painted, and I did a scene inspection on this as well. Took my photographer, experts for this inspection. Turns out that, during the deposition, there was another way he could have taken my client. But he takes him through the shop where active business is being conducted by the mechanics. Doesn't give him goggles. So your guy's
there, and the dude working says, follow me through the shop?
Follow me through the shop. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
Where there's all kind of dangers in these shops.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff going around. And so I think that somebody was using a grinder. Projectile goes into my guy's eye as he's going to look at these parts. So your dude's
just walking through the shop following the guy, and some dude grinds a part or something?
Is working on a vehicle, and a projectile shoots into his eye.
Like a piece of metal or something?
Like a piece of metal. It was never identified or saved. So
does it blow his eyeball out?
It doesn't blow his eyeball out, but it requires 3 surgeries immediately.
In his eye?
In his eye.
Oh my God.
And this guy he's a truck driver.
What?
Yeah. So he's a truck driver, requires his eyes. I mean, I think that all humans value being able to see.
Absolutely.
Those of us that can. And, come to find out there's a different way that the shop owner could have taken him through. That came out in his deposition, just chose not to.
Or don't grind shit when there's a civilian walking through your shop.
Correct.
It's you ever walk by somebody weed whacking like a landscaper or something? They stop the machine when you walk within feet of it because they know they don't want to hurt you.
Yeah. Yep. Don't weed whack near people or absolutely not near kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Stop using grinders on metal. That's going to shoot out metal projectiles into my eye when I'm walking by.
So it's and he goes to the hospital immediately after and ends up getting surgery 3 separate times. It doesn't restore his vision fully in that eye.
God, man,
and
it's always so crazy. Just some dude taking his bike in. You know?
Yep. He's more than a civilian. He's a customer.
Yeah.
So. They ended up taking some depositions with that case, and it resolves.
Good. I mean, it should. That sounds like good liability.
Yeah.
Before I tell you my mechanics case, I had a garage door case, another one. God, garage doors. Who would think? Man, there's danger everywhere.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's everywhere.
In our thing. So, my guy's neighbor, who he's buddies with, said, my garage door is broken. Can you come over and help me? So he goes over to the neighbors. The neighbor says, can you unscrew this thing? I think we need to take this off. Well, garage doors, for those of you who don't know, because I didn't know before I got involved in this case, have pressurized parts and springs in them that are under extreme tension.
Yes.
There was the owner's manual said, do not unscrew this, only authorized personnel.
Yes.
There was a sticker on the garage door that my client could not see because it was on the other side and the garage was dark. And the guy never told him. So the neighbor tells my client, unscrew that thing over there. He does it. It was under tension. It was spring loaded. A spring shot out and hit my guy, who was a TSA border agent. He was a U.S. Border Control agent who needs to see for his job as a law enforcement officer, right in his eyeball, and blows his eyeball out.
Wow.
They had to put in a glass eye. And, they did all the normal stuff. They tried to blame you shouldn't have been working on the garage. Dude, his neighbor asked him to. He didn't tell him that this was pressurized.
Yeah. He's fortunate. I've heard stories where those springs are coming out. They can kill you.
They can kill you. They can go inside your brain.
Yeah.
And kill you.
Was it the spring right above it, like the middle spring? Right
No,
above the... Okay.
It was not the middle spring. It was like on the side.
Okay.
Which was another pressurized spring. It's crazy. So don't work on your own garage
Not at all.
door.
Call the professionals to do it.
But there's lots of mechanic shop injury cases, whether inside the shop or outside the shop.
Yep.
I recently, I don't know if you heard, I got back from Grand Rapids, my hometown.
Yes.
And I tried a case against Tuffy Automotive in Kent County.
Right.
So I was on Dr. Phil. So I flew down. It was been a whirlwind. I flew down to Texas. I went on Dr. Phil. You know Dr. Phil show? Did a Dr. Phil show, which should be airing soon. And then I flew to Grand Rapids. I then started a trial in Grand Rapids against Tuffy Automotive. And so in this case, Tuffy hired a mechanic who did not have a driver's license.
Okay.
He had been recently released from jail. He had a 3-page driving record for speeding, drunk driving stuff, all kinds of stuff. And they made him test drive vehicles, even though he didn't have a license. It was illegal. So he takes this vehicle out on the road that he had just inspected and been working on, is changing lanes, suddenly yanks the wheel to the left, goes into oncoming traffic, and hits my client.
Wow.
It should be an easy case.
It should be.
Auto Owners is the insurance company, who's horrible. And I think they're the worst insurance company, one of the worst out there. And he tells the police, I lost control on the wet road. I lost control of the vehicle. He tells everybody that. We get his doctor's notes from that day at the hospital. The doctor says, what happened? He says in his closed room with the doctor, I was changing lanes, I overcorrected, and lost control of the vehicle. Tells everybody this. Tells my client, I'm sorry, I lost control on the wet roads. Gets a lawyer from Auto Owners, gets deposed, and for the first time, like years later, says something broke on the vehicle. It caused the vehicle to swerve into oncoming traffic, and it's not my fault. The vehicle broke. So we had to hire a mechanic. We tore down the car. Nothing was broken. We hired an accident reconstructionist. He pulled the black box. Black box showed that this guy was going to the right as if he was changing lanes, and then suddenly yanked the car to the left. We couldn't figure out why, because he said in his deposition, he lied. He said there was nothing in the right-hand lane. It was clear. There was no reason for me to yank. It was all malfunction. We get the Tuffy inspection. Nothing wrong with the steering. Auto Owners does their own inspection of the vehicle, because when you total a vehicle, the insurance company sends out an adjuster or an appraiser, and they look at every single little part.
Yeah.
Because the insurance company doesn't want to pay a penny more than they have to.
Right.
They say there's nothing wrong with the steering. So we do this 2-week trial in Grand Rapids, and it's absurd.
Yeah.
Absurd.
Terrible defense.
And the defense calls 2 witnesses. The first witness is this lady who was an eyewitness to the crash, who wasn't listed on the police report.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, oh shit, this lady could blow up our whole case.
Yeah.
And it's their first witness. She must be saying really good things for them and really bad things for us. She comes in, she looks like Rain Man from the movie Rain Man. You know, Rain Man's blind, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
She has on these huge wraparound sunglasses that she's wearing inside the courthouse. She's like feeling her way up to the podium. I'm like, what is going on? So she says this car fishtailed, and then it suddenly went left in oncoming traffic. So kind of supported her thing, but I'm listening really carefully. So I get up and I go, ma'am, I see you have sunglasses on inside a courthouse. Do you have some vision problems?
Yeah.
She says, yes. I have major vision problems. And I said, I noticed that you said you're on your way to Mary Freebread. I said, do you have which is a concussion clinic in Grand Rapids.
Okay.
I said, do you have a traumatic brain injury? She says, yes. Okay. So her credibility's down.
Yeah.
But I asked her, I said, ma'am, were you next to this car? She was the car I established that was right next to this Tuffy driver. He was changing lanes, almost hit her, and then suddenly yanked it to the left.
Oh.
So
it was to avoid another collision.
This all came out in the middle of trial. This was like a Matlock moment.
Sometimes it happens.
So I said, ma'am, did the attorney tell you that he told his doctor that he was changing lanes into your lane and then overcorrected? She goes, no. I go, that's what happened, isn't it? She goes, you know what? That is what happened.
Brilliant.
And so they made up this stuff. They had lied. They had made up something broke that they couldn't identify.
Yeah.
But we solved the problem. It was amazing. And jury came back after 2 hours with $3.5 million.
That's amazing.
Which
That's
was
an amazing
counting.
outcome.
We wanted more.
Great verdict. We always want more for your clients, but
for our clients. So that was good. And but there's a lot of mechanic shop cases.
Yeah.
People getting hurt in the mechanic shops because they're kind of dangerous stuff is going on. It's kind of chaotic.
Well, it's important. I mean, you gotta pay attention to what you're doing. You gotta do your job. And if you don't do your job, then people can get hurt. Stuff can break, especially when it's complex. And it brings up one of the big laws in consumer protection in these auto cases is the Motor Vehicle Service and Repair Act.
Yes.
And you have to document as a mechanic everything that you do to diagnose the problem, everything that you do to fix the problem, and then it must be communicated to the consumer. I use this statute a lot in these types of cases.
Yes, and you know what? I should have called you because I should have used it in our case.
You could have brought in Tuffy.
All this stuff.
You could have brought in Tuffy with it and then Tuffy's going to be like, no, nothing was wrong with the car. And they would have been for you, at least in that regard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's an amazing result. I know it took a lot of work. Obviously, shout out to you and your team for all that.
Yeah, no,
man.
thank you.
Getting that justice.
Yeah, and shout out to Justin Maxim. He was a young attorney in Grand Rapids. He brought me in, which is it's always a little bit. A lot of attorneys don't want to bring in help when
have
they need
to sometimes,
but sometimes you have to. If I had a lemon law case, or I had a case where you're special, I would call you in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
In fact, I should have called you on this case because the Motor Vehicle Service Repair Act. I mean, that's a great idea, but there's all these. The law is so broad, Alan. You can't be the master of everything.
No. I mean, I think Donda West said a giant looks in the mirror and sees nothing.
That's right. That's
so,
right.
It's just like those are kind of like you can't be prideful, man.
No,
just be humble. You learn the most by being humble and saying what you don't know.
That's right.
And reaching out, getting help, and especially in this industry.
You learn more every day.
You do.
I'm never afraid to admit what I don't know and try to learn more about and try to be better because we can all be better.
Right.
And nobody's perfect.
No.
So, all right. So tell me about some more crazy cases. I understand, one thing that I've done a lot of, as well as I know you have, is negligent security cases.
Yeah.
And these cases have wild written all over.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, these security guards, a lot of time it's underpaid, undertrained, maybe not properly hired.
Yeah.
I mean, I love security guards. There's a lot of great ones out there, but it's kind of can be a recipe for sometimes disaster. So
Yes.
have you had any crazy security cases?
So I have actually one of the first cases that I took on personally, graduating out of law school. My family, I think they were like my third or fourth cousin, heard I'd graduated law school, and my great aunt had been holding on to all this stuff and all this, like these reports and records for the right lawyer, right? And so I go to the house and I sign this case up, and it turned out that it was against Walgreens.
Yeah.
And essentially what happens, the synopsis of the case is that there's a shoplifter in the store the same time as my client. And my client's near the front, near the ATM with his grandson. And the shoplifter is trying to grab Sudafed.
Steal it.
Yes,
And
trying
your
to
client
steal
has
it.
nothing, doesn't know
Nothing
the guy.
to do with this. Nothing to do with
Just
this.
innocent dude.
Innocent guy, innocent bystander, just in there shopping, and the shoplifter makes a run for the door. The employees of the Walgreens see that he's making the run for the door. One of the employees, I think the security guard instructs the employees to close the doors and lock them.
So do they have to physically do it, or do they hit a button, or what?
So it's one of those doors that opens up with either pressure or a visual. I think probably both. But they go there and they physically turn the lock to lock everybody in the store with this shoplifter.
And so there's all these people in the store with a shoplifter.
There's all these people in
Oh,
the store
no.
with the shoplifter. And,
And you don't know if the guy's armed.
exactly.
Or
And
like-
this stuff is all ripe for deposition.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm asking all these people, did you see if whether or not this guy was armed? Did you see whether he had any weapons? Did you see if he had a knife? Do you know if he had anyone else with him? Because, a lot of these shoplifting rings, they have partnerships. And so if the members of, or the employees of the Walgreens have been inadequate to resist or fight, these guys with all the force they could have had, it could have been catastrophic for everybody in the store. And
Yeah.
the thing they should have done was call the police.
Yeah.
And that's what the police said. So they eventually get the guy tackled to the ground. They restrain him inside of the store. But prior to that happening, there's this big tussle. And the tussle comes over by my client where he's
Between
standing.
who? Who's the tussle?
The tussle is between the employees of the Walgreens and the shoplifter. And there's like 3 or 4 employees trying to get this guy to the ground. They can't get him to the ground. And it comes in close contact, and they end up knocking my client to the floor. He's
Just an innocent person.
elderly person. The guy's in his 70s,
Oh
and
my
they
God.
break his tailbone.
Oh, my God.
And as you can imagine, tailbones don't heal for young people easy.
No, dude, they hurt for a long
They do.
time.
And so, he had to sit on a donut. It wasn't operable. But yeah, I deposed and the cop shows up and takes an amazing police report. The most detailed police report I've ever
Where
seen.
was it?
I think it was in Oak Park.
Okay.
Yeah. I ended up getting the video, hired a security guard expert out of New Jersey, and deposed probably like 5 or 6 of the employees at the Walgreens and asked each and every one of them the same questions. And they all agreed that they should have called the police or let the guy go. One of the two.
Yeah. Wow. So did you end up resolving that case?
We ended up resolving that case, did not go to trial.
Yeah. That there's a lot of crazy security guard cases, and a lot of them end up a lot worse than that.
Yeah.
People get shot.
Yeah.
I had a crazy case that I became involved in. I didn't represent the plaintiff, but I was asked to come in because things were getting out of control on a case.
Okay.
It was a mom and pop party store in Detroit.
Okay.
Okay. And it was a couple, a very nice African-American couple who it was the husband and the wife. Okay. And they ran the store. And these are the type of people that are there every day. They're working the store themselves. They don't have other people working the store.
Yeah.
And outside, unbeknownst to them, the party store, a robbery is going down. There's a young man who is held up by some guys with a gun who are robbing him. And he gives them his stuff and then runs. And he runs into the store and says, call the police, call the police. The woman who is behind the counter, so the owner woman is behind the counter of the store. Her husband is like in the back of the store, like stocking stuff, right? Like in the back storeroom. The kid's like bleeding because he had been hit.
Yeah.
And he's like, call the police, call the police. And she says, come back here. And so she tells the kid, she is basically a good Samaritan shop owner. She says, run in the back. We're going to lock the doors and call the police. Well, the husband hears all this commotion. He hears her scream. He hears all this commotion. She says, come run into the back. She runs in the back. This young boy who had just been mugged and hit jumps over the counter and follows after her as she's directing him.
Yeah.
The husband doesn't know what's going on. He sees his wife in a panic running towards her. He pulls out a gun and he shoots this innocent boy.
Wow. Who
was following his wife's instruction. And the wife's like, no, no. But it all happened so quick.
Yeah.
Tragic case.
Tragic.
Really tragic.
Does he die?
Kid died.
Wow.
Yep. Kid died.
Did they charge the shop owner criminally?
They did not charge the shop owner criminally, but they got sued civilly.
Yeah.
And their insurance company would not pay what they needed to pay on the policy. And this family, I said, this is crazy. I had to get involved. And I said, this, you could, an innocent boy was killed. This is a 7-figure case all day.
Yeah.
I understand what happened, but it's not murder. It may not be murder, but it's certainly negligent.
Definitely.
And
negligent.
so I helped get that thing resolved, but that's crazy. There's these crazy cases about security and where do you draw the line? You see my friend Vince Colella has a case at Cash Gold or whatever at the bottom of Prime and Proper.
Okay,
Cash only.
Yeah.
Where they shot one of the security guards shot somebody. You see this stuff happen all the time. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's crazy, dude.
It's gone wild.
So tell me about some other cases. Tell me about your other craziest cases, Alan. We could probably talk all day about this.
We can. It's just, as I sit here, I think of more crazy cases that I've litigated. And, before I sat down and before you invited me on, I was like, man, do I really have anything that would, kind of stand out on this show?
Dude, that's how it always is. Like cases got wild. You start talking and then I hear what you say and I'm like, I got 5 more cases. I got 5 more security cases I could talk about.
Yeah.
But, we only have a limited time
I
here
know
on
it.
Cases
So
Gone
the
Wild.
next case I can think of is a case that happens on Mother's Day, 2014. She's out to dinner, a great lady, Miss Adams, with members of her church and her family to celebrate Mother's Day. She just gotten Woman of the Year at her church. And she's leaning over a table to discuss what the family is going to do next with her daughter, because I think her daughter and the siblings were sitting at a separate table than her and her husband. And the components in a ceiling fan, and ceiling fans spin at a high rate of velocity.
Right, and the fan blades are usually like screwed in or something.
Yeah. So the components of the fan blade come loose. They fail.
Is this at a restaurant?
This is at a restaurant. It's at a buffet restaurant. It's called Fire Mountain. Was called Fire Mountain, owned by Ovation Brands and Buffett's Inc. LLC. They've just been recently acquired
by a hedge fund.
By one of those paper gangsters.
It's always a hedge fund. Long live Red Lobster.
I know it. I mean, what happened with Red Lobster too?
Yeah, hedge
wasn't
fund.
Anything to do with the sales. They just gouged
it's a hedge fund,
and now we don't get any more Cheddar Bay biscuits.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, my best cases are hedge funds because they come in and will literally cut all safety to make money. As many good cases on Cases Gone Wild, I say it almost every episode, you can chase the negligence because it's always about the money.
It is.
The money.
So we do a scene inspection on this case as well.
Now, did you get to test the buffet?
I would not have tested the buffet. I'm not really a buffet guy.
Yeah, neither am I.
But so the
That's what happened to Red Lobster. It was the unlimited shrimp.
no, that's not what happened. So the components of the fan come loose. Blade hits her in the head and neck.
So the blade literally, so the fan's on.
Fan's on.
It's oscillating around and it shoots the blade out like a bullet at her
like
head.
a bullet at her neck, head and neck.
Wow.
Resulting in a cervical disc herniation diagnosed at Sinai Grace Hospital, resulting in a cervical fusion.
That's a neck surgery.
Neck surgery, that's
So
correct.
this blade hits her right in the neck?
Yes, sir.
She's lucky she didn't, bleed out. It could have. We have arteries that run up and down our necks, like what is that? The carotid artery.
Very, very dangerous.
You can die.
And when we inspected this place, there was like dust all in the ceiling, all in the vents of the air, like over where people eat.
Dude,
it's just kind of
one thing that amazes me about inspections is sometimes they don't clean up, and it's like, didn't the defense attorney tell you that like a lawyer who's suing you and his experts and his camera crew are coming on this date? Like, I have cases gone wild here at my home office. We cleaned up today.
Yeah.
Like you
spotless
clean
in this
up.
joint.
You
Spotless.
clean up, right?
Spotless.
So what happened?
So we do an inspection. I'm taking some depositions. Things are going well. Cases going along the track that they normally do.
I mean, what's the defense?
There really wasn't. I mean, the legal defense, because it wasn't facts.
It's always legal defense.
It was a legal defense of notice because it's a premises liability case.
Dude, fan blades don't just come off.
No.
Unless that thing was probably wobbly.
Yeah.
And on there. And if it did come off, then the manufacturer's responsible.
I got great deposition testimony out of the defendants here, to where I feel like I could have beat any motion. And it was one of the first cases that I took on at my firm, under my flagship, under my name.
Yeah.
And so, we had significant resources invested in this case. We get a great case eval back when you went to case eval in person.
And case evaluation is you have to go to present your case to a panel of 3 lawyers.
Panel of 3 lawyers, a defense lawyer, a plaintiff's lawyer, and a neutral.
And they don't do that in Michigan anymore, but we used to have to do it.
Yeah, you used to have to do it. It
was
mandatory. Now it's not mandatory. It's optional. So we go to that. We go to the case evaluation, and we're thinking of facilitation. And the defense lawyer, there's the on the field, off the field banter with defense attorneys, and they're not all bad.
They're not all bad.
And
they're not all bad. We've had some on the show.
Yeah, yeah. So we're working things out, and he calls me. He's like, "Al, I just don't know why I can't get any authority on this case." And so, just to give you a background,
so the insurance company wouldn't pay.
So let's talk about that. So the incident happens in August of 14. File the case in January of 15. We get through litigation, and I learned that the insurance on this case, in this particular case, I guess, is bifurcated, in that the first 500 was self-insured, and then the second 500 was an actual policy.
So just so our listeners understand, this is what's called, and it's any attorney, especially I encourage young attorneys, you cannot value a case till you know the insurance.
Yeah.
And how the insurance dynamics work. And insurance is complicated. It's not always like you think. You get in a car accident, there's insurance. Some businesses have what's called a self-insured retention. What that means is, it sounds like in this case, the Old Country Buffet, or whatever their name was, had to pay up to $500,000. Only after that, the company paid $500,000 would the insurance kick in, right?
That's correct.
And so that can create all kinds of weird dynamics.
So that's what happens in this case. There's a weird dynamic. So I get a call from the defense attorney. He's like, why I couldn't get authority? It's because Ovation Brands just filed for bankruptcy.
No.
Chapter 11. So in May of 2016, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the Western District of Texas. And being a young lawyer, I mean, I'm out 2 years, maybe 3 years at this point. I don't know anybody in Texas. I know that my professor, shout out to Yuli Osipov, he took a look at it for me initially. He was a bankruptcy guy and told me, Al, you got to hire somebody in Texas. So I'm on the phone with 3 or 4 different lawyers. And eventually I come across this firm, Branscombe PC. Shout out to Pat Autry down there in Texas. And this guy is he's just an animal. Just knows his laws inside and out. Files a petition and a claim for us in the bankruptcy court in Texas. And everybody that was there I guess you could say the lawyers that represent the Ovation brands were like, what are you doing here? Because they were surprised.
Yeah,
but
they figured you just go
away, which happens a lot.
Dude.
It does.
A lot it happens. And for our listeners, think about this. You're an innocent person at an old country buffet place. You get hit in the head with a freaking fan blade that is not maintained. You have to go to the hospital and have neck surgery. You are litigating the case and
We're winning.
Yeah. And then, we declared bankruptcy. Now you have to go find and hire another lawyer across the country in Texas. I mean, dude, these are the barriers to justice.
Absolutely.
This is ridiculous.
And so one of the arguments that Pat made down there was that they should have had $500K set aside because you're saying that you have an insurance interest, that you have $500K available.
And the insurance company's probably salivating, thinking, all right,
we're getting out of this. We're not doing it. Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
So essentially, that argument fails because there's too many claims and not enough money. All right. And so eventually it gets to the point in the bankruptcy where things have already been submitted and there's all types of hearings and things to where Pat informed me that I could file a relief of stay because the circuit court case in Wayne County had been stayed pending their bankruptcy.
Yeah, and just so what that means is bankruptcy is a mess for us plaintiffs' lawyers.
It is.
So if you are suing somebody or some entity and then that entity declares bankruptcy, even if it's like for any reason, even if it's like a fake bankruptcy, your case becomes stayed, which means it's frozen.
That's right.
Which means you can't do anything for like years usually until the stay's lifted. It makes things tough.
It makes things very tough. And in this case, like I said, we had significant resources invested because of all the experts, the attorneys, and everything. So we are going to be going to trial.
Yeah, and it's your own money.
It is.
People are like, oh, these lawyers,
cash out of my pocket.
These lawyers make all this money and stuff. Yeah, okay. You wait and see till you see how hard it is. It's not easy.
Yeah. So we get the relief of stay. We get that order entered. We continue the case. And there's a switch in defense firms or lawyers. And the new lawyer that took it over, I was surprised to learn that the insurance company that hadn't even been triggered yet wanted to facilitate.
So they were worried.
They were concerned. Yes. And so we ended up going to facilitation. The case resolved, even though that they weren't triggered, which was amazing. Amazing result.
Well, they were worried it was going to be triggered.
Yeah, they were worried it was going to be triggered.
And that's good. I mean, that's what you have to use. Look, nobody wants to pay money. It's all about money.
Yeah.
So when you have layers of coverage or people who could have to pay but may not have to pay, they're going to do everything they can to make other people pay money.
They wanted to control their loss.
Yeah.
And so essentially what ends up happening is we resolve with them, the insurance company, and then the claim goes through the bankruptcy, and we got a little something out of that too. Needless to say, case started in January of 2014. Final resolution of everything was, I believe, March of 2022.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Man.
That's how long it took. That's how long it took to get through.
No, this is the problem, right? Justice delayed is justice denied.
Yeah.
I mean, it shouldn't take 8 years if you're eating at an old country buffet to get your settlement, especially when the injuries are that bad. We hear about frivolous lawsuits and stuff, and certainly there's bad lawsuits that, but it's these frivolous defenses that aren't given enough attention, and we talk a lot about them on this case, on this show, but it's cheating people out of justice.
It's all frivolous until it happens to you.
That's
right. And
right.
you need one of us.
That's right. That's right.
It's all that's everybody's feeling, and it's just kind of like, You be considerate of others, sure, but can you consider of yourself? But can you be considerate of others? That's
right.
what's important.
Until it happens to you. There's like I'll leave on this last note. There was it was down. I think it was in Kansas, and Kansas has a very strict laws limiting lawsuits, and I think they cap the amount of money that you can recover.
Okay.
On any case. So let's say you're hit by a car. I think for pain and suffering, I think it's capped at like $200,000 or something. I think they since have taken this away.
I think that's completely un-American.
But I do too. But it's completely ridiculous. So there was a Kansas senator who had his son was killed on a water slide.
Yeah.
A dangerous, unsafe water slide.
Yeah.
Anybody else that would happen to, the value of his life would be $200,000
capped.
For him, the Kansas legislature passed an exemption for this one case for his son. And to me, that's despicable. Not because his son didn't deserve it and his family didn't deserve it because it was horrible, but that the justice should be so one-sided for the privileged.
Oh, for
the
one person.
few, for one person. What about everybody else?
Yeah.
And so, Alan, thank you for your fighting. Thank you for doing what's right.
Hey, man.
Thank you for being on the show.
Anytime, John.
You're the man.
Thank you, brother.
We
Takes
had a
one to know
great
one.
time. We had a great time, and I hope to see you soon. And I hope to collaborate with you very soon.
Absolutely, man. Looking forward to it.
All right, everybody. This has been another awesome episode of Cases Gone Wild. Thank you for tuning in with my friend Alan Latham and talking about the craziest cases. We hope that none of the crazy stuff that we have on the show ever happens to you, your family, your friends, not even your enemies. Some of this stuff is so bad. If it does, reach out. We will get you in touch. You got a lemon, we're going to hook you up with Alan Latham. Go to markolaw.com, marko-law.com, or give us a call, 833-MARKO-LAW. That's Marko Law, MARKO-LAW on your telephone or cell phone, whatever you have. Nobody has telephones anymore. I'll see you in 2 weeks on another Cases Gone Wild.